Welcome to The Joyful Life, the podcast for finding true happiness in every aspect of your life through spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental health. I'm your host, Anthony LaJoy, and thanks for joining us for another episode of exploration into personal success. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of The Joyful Life podcast. This week, I am very, very excited to be here at Burg Fitness in St. Pete, Florida. This is Olivia. Olivia, welcome to the Joyful Life podcast.
Yes, thanks.
Olivia is co-host of Nasy Girls podcast, so check out that when you get a chance. But the interesting thing that I found out right away about your podcast is you hear the term Nasty Girls, and it's not at all what you think when you get to the actual podcast and what it's actually about. So give us a little bit of an overview of what your podcast is about.
Yeah.
And then we can talk a little bit about your gym here. It's a gorgeous facility.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, so the Nasty Girls podcast, I remember when we officially picked the name and I told my mom, she was like, Olivia, that's so, I can't tell my friends that my daughter is a co-host of the Nasty Girls podcast. Like, what is that even about, And so she was already embarrassed for me. I was like, it's not like that, Mom. But no, so the Nasty Girls refers to a series of workouts. So in CrossFit, we have what we call benchmark workouts. And so Greg Glassman, 10, 15 plus years ago kind of came up with, so they're these original girls who were doing CrossFit at the time, before it was cool and sexy and whatever. And so there's workouts named Elizabeth and Amanda, and they're named after these girls. And so the collection of them are referred to as the Nasty Girl workouts. Those are terrible, they're really hard. As he kind of says, he's like, nothing will leave you out of breath and on the floor like a Nasty Girls workout. And so when we were literally sitting at Bandit Coffee here in St. Pete and just kind of shooting around different ideas, like, what about this, what about this, what about this, no. And we wanted to kind of be similar in the sense of when you heard of our podcast name that you would kind of know oh, those girls work out, or those girls might be into CrossFit, but we didn't want it to be overtly obvious. Yeah. And so because it's much more about just wellness and lifestyle and fitness and health. And so I was like, I think there's these workouts. What about the Nasty Girl workouts, the Nasty Girls podcast? And as soon as I said it, I was like, oh no. And Amy was like, yeah, in the middle of the coffee shop, and which is a kind of a quieter coffee shop. And so we're like, okay, cool. And so that's how literally we came up with the name. And so it refers to a series of workouts that are really, really tough in CrossFit. Yeah. And so our hashtag is Nasty Girl Nation and all that kind of stuff.
It's a catchy name, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just have a thought here. No. We should say too that you have a co-host.
Yes.
She wasn't able to make it with us today. She actually runs your gym up in Columbus, Ohio.
Right outside of Columbus.
Shout out to OH.
Yeah.
The people back home. So she wasn't able to make it to today, but we're gonna have you guys on again for sure. Yeah. We have a lot to talk about. But that being said, not only do you have a podcast, but you and Amy have a gym, a couple of gyms.
Yeah. So I am the Chief Marketing Officer and Director of Brand Development, and basically I oversee all of our members. I manage kind of the managers here at our St. Pete location. It's where my home base is, but we also have a gym up in Pinellas Park, which is about 20 minutes north of us here in St. Pete. And then we also have a gym in Ohio, and that's the one that Amy, she's the manager, and she runs that gym, and she's crushing it up there, which is really awesome. So
she sounds like a big personality. I haven't met her.
She's pretty special. So
she's
awesome.
What inspired you to move to Ohio?
Huh?
What inspired you to move to Ohio?
Yeah, so Tony and Jen, the owners of of Burg, they are originally from the Sunbury area. It's kind of this up and coming town. It's about 30 minutes outside of Columbus, and so there's no CrossFit gym within 20-ish minutes, and they are planting I think over 500 new homes are going in Sunbury. There's now an IKEA. It's definitely an up and coming area. So Tony was like, need to plan a gym up there.
Wow.
And this is about coming up, was it 2 years ago-ish or so?
Okay.
And so that's literally what inspired it. And so at the time we had already opened up Pinellas Park. It was not even a year old, and we were rolling out. So that time of all of our lives was crazy.
Yeah.
And a little bit wild. And so we had someone else who was managing it and it didn't work out. And I remember I was on the floor coaching with Tony, and he came up to me, and Amy was actually working out, and he was like, what if we ask Amy to go to Ohio? Like, we love her, we trust her, like, she's awesome. And I was like, I think honestly she's the best decision that we could do. And so she's done nothing but excel up in Ohio. And she's a Florida girl. And so like the cold and all this kind of stuff. And so she's like, this is crazy, but she loves it. Like she's loving it. And so
that's great.
She's awesome.
That's super awesome. With all the stuff you do, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
And pun actually intended because you are a mom.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about you. A little bit about what you do, because you actually have a mental health practice.
Yep. Yeah. So when I am not CrossFitting and coaching and marketing and all that kind of stuff, I'm also a new mom. So my baby is about 7 months old, which is wild to even say out loud that I'm a mom. That I have a 7-month-old. And married to Jonathan, and they're awesome. And so when I'm not a mom, not basically at home, which I'm home quite often, I also own and manage and run Sunshine City Counseling. And so I'm one of the lead therapists there. And so I've got a team of 3 other individuals. They're awesome. And we just rock it out in downtown St. Pete in the mental health waves. And so Sunshine City Counseling, I've got Burg CrossFit that I also do, and then Nasy Girls podcast as well. So
to name a few, it's whatever. She's basically like the ultimate mom. Don't worry about it. So what are some of the things, because I find mental health interesting, and here we are in May, which is mental health awareness. Some people I think would kind of assume if you live down in Florida with the sunshine and the warm temperatures and the ocean and always green, that you'd always be in a good mood, that life goes easier, right? Because Florida in this area especially is seen as a very touristy area.
Totally.
Right? And many people come here and life is great, right? But no matter where you are, if you have a mental issue, you have a mental issue, it doesn't matter. So talk a little bit about some of the challenges you see with your patients coming in, and like ways that you kind of help them navigate their life.
So I'm a little bit unique in the populations that I tend to serve. And so I specialize in foster and adoption. So I work a lot with kids who have endured pretty significant trauma. That's part of my practice. And then the other part of my practice, I work with individuals who want to have more meaningful and more intimate relationships and more significance basically in life. And so that can mean a whole host of things. I have clients who are super anxious. I've got clients who are depressed and usually don't really know it. They just think they, got to figure it out, suck it up, buttercup kind of thing. And like, you're actually depressed. As well as, life transitions. A lot of things around identity, who am I and what is my purpose, and those types of things. And so whereas Christina, she works a lot with like performance coaching. And so she works more with like athletes on specific issues related to performance in their sport. Lauren is really, really gifted at working with really anxious individuals. And Carrie works more in like life transitions and those types of things. And so all of us deal with different facets, but where there are people, there's hurt. I think we've all been wounded in significant ways, whether it's in relationships that we are currently in, even in relationships with our parents and the families that we grew up in. I can't tell you how many times I've sat with people who are like, I had a great childhood. I wasn't abused. I'm like, well, that bar is real low, all of us, regardless if we've had really terrible parents or even just incredible parents, they're imperfect, and they could only give to us what they had received themselves. And so, just because they're human beings, they're going to hurt us. I had awesome parents, but it doesn't mean that they were perfect or that I didn't incur hurts. I did, absolutely. Right. I'm one of 5 kids, and so all of us experience different things within our family system, right? And so you can even trace it back to the ways in which that I attach come from my inability or the lack of attachment that I received growing up. And so how did I carry that throughout my growing up years? And how has that affected and compounded the ways in which that I would enter into relationships, whether it be with significant others or whether it be just with girlfriends or whatever it might be. And so where there are people, there's hurt. Regardless of where you live, of course, living in St. Pete or the Tampa Bay area is awesome. Like, yes, there's sunshine and it's really nice. And so in that regards, it's a beautiful place to live. But my environment can't heal the darkest parts of my heart. Only I can do that. And with the help of either, a counselor or your faith or whatever it might be. And so, certainly environmental factors are helpful, but unfortunately, it is not, the largest factor of my growth or my health,
Yeah.
So.
No, that's a really good point. I haven't heard someone say, where there's people there's hurt, and that's a very, very true, and it's a good way to put it. There's a lot of trouble in the world just through, like you said, actions, and you made a really great point about your parents might not want to hurt you, but sometimes, just like, when you're in a relationship, you have issues too, and, so that's an interesting way to put it. There's definitely a different idea of it. What are some things that maybe you struggle with yourself, whether that be at the gym or in your practice, or maybe after having your son there, getting back to the gym? I'm sure that was no easy task.
Yeah, no, not at all.
How do you get through those struggles?
Yeah, it's like, pick what part of my life you want to talk about, I suppose, because I think I've struggled a lot with different things in different seasons. I mean, some of the joke is like, people who are counselors usually are counselors because they've been at the receiving end of such tremendous help. Yeah. And so they in turn then want to turn around and help others, which is true. Like, my very first experience with counseling was in college as a freshman, and it changed my life. And I actually didn't want to be a counselor. I was like, no, my job is really intense, like there's no way. But God just kind of like chased me down. But yeah, I struggled a lot with perfectionism. Growing up, I was a high achiever, and I am...
Couldn't prove it now.
No,
It doesn't seem like you are now. You clearly beat that issue.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, so if you know much about the Enneagram, I am a type 3, which is the achiever. Shocking. Okay. And so when I am not in a healthy space, it's very easy for me to equate my worth with what I put out in terms of my work. So if I'm not working, I am not worthwhile, or I do not have value. And so as someone who does struggle with that, I constantly need to be reminded that, am I hustling for the wrong reasons? Like, am I trying to prove something, or am I just doing it because I truly do enjoy it, and I don't have to do this thing right now. It can rest and whatever. And so that has looked a lot of different ways, and will be a struggle that I have for the rest of my life. Yeah. In varied capacities. As a mom, and I have a task, and I can't do that because Ken woke up from a nap, and that has to get paused, and it's okay. The world's not going to die,
Right.
And I'm not going to die, and so there's that facet of things. I've struggled with codependency as well, and in different relationships in college and beyond, which is basically kind of like it's a type of attachment disorder, really. It's an over-investment or losing who I am and my sense of identity in someone else. And so that has definitely ebbed and flowed, and I didn't even know that about myself until I got into college and into a relationship where that manifested itself. And I was like, I don't even know what this is, and what? And but through counseling and working with Steve, my counselor, it was just a tremendous eye-opener of the ways in which my brokenness manifests itself, specifically in regards to relationships. And so that has been something that I'm continually learning about myself, and just in terms of how do I attach in healthy ways to same-sex peers or to opposite sex peers, and even my husband and to Canon, and how can I teach Canon how to attach in healthy ways. And and then after Canon, I knew that I probably would struggle with postpartum depression. I knew that was probably going to be a thing, so I've struggled with depression in different seasons of my life, and but I don't think anything can quite prepare you for it. I mean, it is every bit as difficult as people talk about, and it is every bit as isolating as people talk about.
Wow.
Like I just remember there'd be nights where I'd be laying in bed, just like tears flowing down my face, and Jonathan he'd be like, I don't know how to help you, and I'm like crying. I'm like, you can't. I can't fix me. You can't fix me. I just need you to pray for me. Because there's nothing that I can do. Like your hormones are all like jacked up, this baby, and some women even struggle with it so much that they don't even feel attached to their baby, and so it can be really significant. That wasn't my case, and so I'm thankful for that. But so I struggled probably for about 2.5 months with pretty significant postpartum depression. Which then kind of manifested itself into anxiety, and I still have some residual effects of that too, even now, 7 months out. And so there's different times where I will just feel really anxious, and even more so than what I have in the past. And so that's been an interesting learning curve. So just as much as I am teaching my clients, right, different strategies and different techniques, and identifying like what story am I creating around this situation, whatever, I'm also having to do the work. And so I'm a very quick to remind my clients that I am not special. Like I am not this like wise, all-knowing seer like some counselors purport themselves as. I'm very much like, I'm a human, and I'm literally right in the trenches with you.
Yes. And
journeying with you. And so this isn't my journey, like this isn't my time to talk about me, so we're not going to talk about me. But like, whenever they're like, you probably don't struggle with this, it always, it's cool how it will come out and be like, no, like that's not true at all. You want that to be true so that you can, whatever. And so, so those are just a few of the things.
See, those are all great examples of where to start on that. To your last point, because it's fresh in my mind, when you teach is how you learn best, right? I think we've all heard that.
Yeah.
So you teaching these people and helping them through their different situations and navigating their way through life, I'm sure that helps you to kind of, take a look at yourself in the mirror and see what you need and how you can best yourself.
Absolutely. I remember my supervisor one time, this was several years ago, and I remember telling him, I was like, at that time I said, it's so interesting that all the people that are coming into my practice, are just really anxious. And I've noticed a theme, and I definitely see different themes in my practice of like, the last 4 months it tends to be all trauma or sexual abuse related or whatever it might be. And so this was just one of those seasons where it was like a lot of anxiety. And my supervisor, Ben, was like, well, why do you think that is? I'm like, I don't know. And he was like, and he told me, he goes, I think a large reason is because you are such a calming presence for those individuals. He's like, it's you have struggled with it in some capacity, and so of course that they would be attracted to that. That makes sense. And I'm a firm believer that when we receive healing in a particular area or just in general, that it's never meant to just sit with me. Like it's my duty to then turn around and give it away. And so like as I have, I go to counseling because I want to be a better counselor and I want to be better just in general. That as I receive insights or healing in a particular area, it's astounding to me. Like the very next day or even several weeks or whatever it might be, I'm sitting with someone and I'm telling them something and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's why I needed to learn that. Otherwise I would never have gone down that particular avenue with that particular client. And that was what they needed. Like that's awesome, and it's beautiful to be able to sit and to marvel at that. They would never know that, but the fact that I get to know that and to get to see that, I'm like, okay, like that makes sense. you know, or whenever I'm going through a really dark season, like I was going, you know, over the last years, they were really difficult in both Jonathan and I's families, just for various reasons of, you know, infidelity and just different things, and so it's felt really dark, and but all along the way, there have been just such direct moments of sitting with certain clients and being like, so that this might be part of the reason why I'm there, because otherwise I would never have seen that for this person.
Yeah.
To be able to know to ask that question or to go down to chase that particular rabbit hole or whatever it might be. And so it's like where we receive healing, it's just it's just like our duty as kindness and loving to then turn around and to give it away.
Yeah, pay it forward always.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's funny. I have multiple friends who, you know, maybe have come into work or something and said, hey guys, I got a free Starbucks today. You know, the guy in front of me paid for it. It was so nice. And I remember one particular situation, and another coworker says, well, did you pay for the coffee behind you? And she goes, oh no, I guess I should have done that. Oh, we were like, yeah, you maybe should have. But that was funny, right? I mean, some situations, you know, you might not think about it, but it's very important to pay it forward.
Absolutely.
And to your other point that you have like a mentor, essentially. I've read before about what to do and what not to do as a life coach.
Yeah.
Because it's something I find very interesting. I read a lot. And they say, you know, if you're going to be a life coach, practice what you preach. You need to have a life coach yourself, because you don't have all the answers.
Totally.
And I think that's really, really cool. And I very strongly advocate for a mentor in life, or your professional or personal life. I have a mentor myself, right? And it's not like we meet every week or, you know, all the time, but when I do, I leave there and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Like I have my purpose reignited. I have my vision clarified. And it's very important to have someone, depending who you are. For me, I need someone very blunt.
Yeah.
I don't want you to beat around the bush. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Tell me what I should be doing.
Yep.
Tell me why I'm not getting where I want to be. And he's that way. He'll tell me, you know, and I'll just kind of say, like, hey, I'm doing this. What do you think? And he'll say, no, it's absolutely terrible. Don't do that.
Dumb.
All right, well, let's throw that out and move on. But I'm so glad that he'll tell me things like that, because I don't want to waste my time either, you know.
Totally.
So it's important to have that sort of stuff. Super cool. Super cool. Man, depression is a funny thing, isn't it? You mentioned that you struggled with it. I've gone through seasons in my life where I've struggled with it.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I started the podcast, and getting a back injury and being flat on my back for a year, and just wanting to feel bad for myself. And you mentioned some of your clients, maybe when you will bring up, hey, I struggle with this too. They might, like, they connect with it, but they're looking for a reason to be special. They're looking for a reason to, well, it's not going to work for me because here's what I struggle with that no one else struggles with, right? You always want a specific thing, and that's exactly what I did. Exactly.
Yeah.
And my friends were like, dude, just go to physical therapy, do something, get it better. I'm like, no, trust me, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
They're just in denial. But depression is funny, and sometimes you have to get through it yourself. Sometimes you need others too as well. It's an interesting aspect. So when you have your mental practice and you have your physical practice, those are two of really big key things that I talk about quite often on my show. How do you find that they interact together? If you miss a couple days at the gym, or you miss, taking your mental time, how does that affect one or the other?
Absolutely.
Swing you one way.
Yeah, so when I was in grad school, I remember we were sitting in like one of our, I forget, it was social something, one of our classes, and we were talking about like, what we wanted to do when we graduated. And everyone was pretty much like, I want to work in community mental health, I want to work in this, I want to work in that, whatever, which is great. And I said, well, I'm going to work in private practice. And everyone was like, whoa, right out of the gate. And I'm like, heck yeah, and they're like, what are you going to do? I was like, well, I'm going to integrate physical and mental health. together. And they're like,
Yeah.
but no one's doing that. And I said, yeah, I know. But that's like pretty much what I do. I'm like, so I will do it. And because for me, there was such a strong correlation between who I like my mental health as well as my physical health. And so there, I'm a firm believer that we are pretty complicated, that human beings are very complex, but not so complex in that, you know, things are segmented at all. Like a lot of people would just want to talk about, well, let's just talk about your mental health. Or let's just talk about your physical health. I can't talk to you about your physical health without either directly or indirectly talking about your mental health, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not, because it's built around behaviors and certain choices and belief systems, right? And so I always talk about, I'm like, my physical practice is every much as therapeutic as when I go see Leslie, who's my counselor. And it's just in a different way. You know, it's like I take my certain medications in the morning, like I take my prenatal, I take my cod liver oil, I take my whatever, right? I also take my daily dose of fitness as well. And yeah, and so it's just a matter of, you know, a movement is medicine. It's just a matter of in what form do you want to take it. If you take it CrossFit, great. Orange Theory, great. Bodybuilding, great. Walking, great. Whatever. Just moving in general, right?
Yeah.
And I always, you know, when I first started kind of in the practice of counseling, I was seeing this like crazy correlation between how people function in the gym which is a microcosm, right? Was such a reflection of probably how they live their life outside of the gym. For example, in here as a functional fitness facility across the gym, we, you know, all different types of movements, whatever, people are doing their own thing, they're doing class, whatever it might be. At any given point, I can see or find someone who either gives up in the middle of a workout and is like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, not because they're injured or because they're whatever, but just because they're not winning. That could be a reason. Whatever that means, you know, because they are really tired and they're like, I just can't do it anymore, I just can't, right? So that's one example to someone who's in the corner who is just like beating themselves up trying to get a particular movement. And when I'm like, hey, you're not gonna probably get double unders being super fatigued, or you're not probably gonna make that lift because you're super fatigued, and they're like, no, I have to keep trying, I have to do it. It's like, why? It's because it's not good enough. Not good enough. I'm like, okay. And so the ways in which that we talk to ourselves in the gym, whether it's self-defeating, whether it's I'm never good enough, or I always suck, or I'm not fit enough, or I'm not this, or whatever, it's like these very limiting beliefs are going to be taken outside the gym. And how does that manifest itself just in real life?
Yeah.
You know, like what are you not following through on, or what are you giving up on? Or, you know, how are you choosing to talk to yourself when you mess up at work? Or in a relationship when you mess something up? Are you quick to forgive and to go and reconcile? Or nope, I suck, or of course I would do that. Self-fulfilling prophecy, like of course this would happen, of course you would dump me, of course, you know, whatever it might be. And so the gym, how we act and engage not only with myself but also with other people is such a reflection of how I'm choosing to live my life outside of the gym. And so it's just a fascinating correlation to see that. And you know, and if I am quick to make excuses around why I can't go to the gym, or why I can't do a certain workout, or I can't, you know, whatever it might be, it's like, well, what other excuses am I willing to make just in my regular daily life? Like, how am I showing up? Because for me, pushing myself to accomplish into different spaces than I ever thought I could ever do allows me and gives me the confidence to then go and do the same, like in relationships, in my work life, in my marriage, in my, you know, whatever it might be. Of like one of the campaigns that Sunshine City is getting ready to put together is I can do hard things. And so, which is exactly that. It's like, and that's what I tell, like Jonathan and I started talking about that. I was like, that's going to be a core value for our family, because it's like, I want to be known and marked as someone who shows up and has the hard conversation. I don't ever want to be known as like, yeah, you know, like when things get really hard, Olivia just goes away. Like, where'd she go? But I want to be known as someone who's like, yeah, Olivia and I like had some really hard struggles, But she showed up and had a hard conversation with me, and like we reconciled and worked through it, and that's a mark of a secure attachment, right?
Yeah.
And the mark of like true friendship and a deep, intimate relationship. And so I can do hard things, and it goes in the gym, and it also goes for outside of the gym.
Yeah.
And it always comes with sacrifice. And
Yeah.
so it's like, in order for something new to begin, so I tell my clients all the time, and myself, in order for something new to begin, something has to die. Like something of my old self has to die. Something has to be sacrificed in order for a new life to begin. In order to make room for something different, I have to be willing to allow that thing to die. And that's hard. And that's why a lot of people don't want to do it. And so it's tricky.
That's a good thought, though. I like that. I'm gonna have to write that down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down afterwards.
Yep.
I like to put good thoughts that I hear
Yeah.
in my little to-go book,
Yep.
and
Yeah, I'm
and
a
then
big
when
sucker
I'm-
for books.
yeah, I go back to those things, and then also when you hear a good idea for a business or for
Yeah.
self-improvement, you write that down and keep your goals listed and review those, weekly and stuff. So
Totally.
yeah, I gotta write that one down in
Yeah.
the go book. But tangent. What you mentioned there about, I'm not good enough and working harder and keep going until you get it. There's the good side of that, where you have the persistency, but
Sure.
then the extreme of that where you're talking about in the gym, like you are just too fatigued, you aren't going to get it done. Not only are you going to hurt yourself, or could hurt yourself
Yeah.
physically, but I take that to the business side of things or the personal life, right? And let's say that you're, a salesman, and you're like, no, I don't have my pitch right, and you're working on it. If you get so obsessed with one aspect of your life, the others are going to fail.
Totally.
Right? So I'm thinking of that as, let's say, again, you're a salesman, and you are so obsessed with this sale you're working on that you aren't getting it, and you don't know why, so you just sit in your office and you're going, just beating yourself over your head, just trying to figure out what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
But it's a Friday night, your wife, your friends, whatever, are going out and say, hey, come out to meet you for dinner. I can't, I've got this thing. And if that's all, if you're always saying, I can't, to come do something else or to go just relax, breathe, right? That emotional side of you is going to go right down.
Yep.
Because you're not making time for other priorities as well. Now, work can be a priority if you're struggling with that aspect. Make that a priority, but don't forget that there's other aspects. Too. And if those, that's when people start getting sick.
Yep.
I think studies, you could probably talk about this. Studies talk about how people who allow stress to get to them overly much tend to be sicker people.
Yep.
They get sick all the time. It's kind of the placebo effect where people say, oh, it's really bad allergies, I think I'm getting sick.
Yeah.
Good, and they get sick. I used to do it all the time in college. I was that guy, because I was a music major.
Yeah.
So I was like the singer, had to keep my voice
Yeah.
warm and stuff. Dude, I got sick all the time. And now that I don't need to rely on, I need to do a recital at the end of the week or whatever, I hardly get sick. Because I found like a new headspace.
Yep.
And have you seen that with your clients? Again, you work a little bit more with like developmental. But can you talk a little bit about that and how that ties in?
Yeah, it's super true. Like I was going back to what I said before. It's like we are super complicated beings, but we're not at the same time. Do you know what I mean? It's like we're super complex, but at the end of it, like, are we really? But everything is integrated, right? Like our gut has 90% of the neurotransmitters that are found in our brains in our gut. And so when people talk about having like that gut feeling, it's actually legit. Because 90% of those neurotransmitters that are in your head are found in your tummy. And so it's like, it makes you wonder, right? People who have gut health issues, how does that show up or manifest itself in their emotional world, in their relationships, and just overall into the being of their existence, Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. So, people who have really jacked up gut health, I wonder if that affects other facets. Yes, I don't know the studies or if there's been studies on that, but like just scientifically, it's like, well, it has to, but when you're working to heal your gut, right? For instance, because I've known several people to do that specifically. it makes you so much more intentional, not only with the foods that you're eating, but also the quality of sleep that you're getting, also the quality of relationships, the types of people that you're engaging yourself with, those types of things. And so I think obviously it's super integrated, of just how am I choosing to show up and prioritize my health, with whether it means the types of foods that I'm eating, the types of physical exertion that I'm doing, to how is my sleep hygiene, how, all of these other things. It's like anytime we live in extreme, it's never good. Maybe it's more socially acceptable on one end than the other, but it's both are bad. Like that's what I tell so many of my clients. They're like, well, but he's a hard worker. I'm like, but just because he's a workaholic. And that's a problem just as much as someone who is not working at all and is super lazy and whatever. Both are extremes and both are unhealthy, just in different ways, and it manifests itself differently. So we're always trying to find what does that middle ground look like, and your middle ground might look different for me,
Absolutely.
And might look different for someone else. And so it's just I think it's really important to have those people in our lives. I call them mirror friends, to reflect back your truth and who know you, to be like, I know what it looks like when you're hustling for your worthiness, and it looks like you're doing that right now. I'm like, you don't know me, But I know for me, it's like when I am not eating well, or when I'm not engaging in physical activity, or I'm not sleeping well, whatever, other facets of my life start going down. I start getting more anxious, or I start feeling more overwhelmed. It's like, okay, you've got to pull it all back. What am I not doing? Well, I'm not waking up, and I'm not, I'm not praying, I'm not spending time reading the Bible, whatever. Those anchoring pieces, I talk about that a lot of, what are those things that are going to anchor you? Whether it's a daily practice of meditation, whether it's reading, some stoicism, whatever that thing might be for you. It's like, if I'm not doing those things, those main pillars, the peripherals are going to fall down. And so, my health, or all of those things, it's all interrelated. Absolutely.
That's such a good way to put it. And it's the neurotransmitters in your gut and your mind. That's insane. I never knew that. And there's got to be a study on that.
There's a whole book that I read. I don't remember. Yeah, it's at my house. It's a super nerdy book.
It's okay.
But it's super nerdy. But I'll look it up, and I'll let you know, so you can link it in the show notes. But it's fascinating.
That would be very interesting. Yeah, super cool. Well, let's wrap it up.
Cool.
There, let's call it good. I think we provided a lot of information here, so folks look into a lot of this stuff, because this is very interesting for me. Thanks so much for coming on this.
Thanks for having me.
In closing, I think kind of what you were saying. We're all different. We all approach things differently. We all have different middle ground. But the important thing is to find out what that ground is, and find out what makes you tick, what is good for you, what's bad for you. Having a mentor, having a coach, a therapist, all really good things. And be honest with yourself. One thing that really helped me is I literally wrote down in a book all of my worries. What I was concerned about, what I thought I was really good at, things that I thought maybe I obsessed about. But this is just your time to be completely honest. You don't need to show it to anybody. You can if you want, but you don't need to show it to anybody. But just write down, be completely honest with yourself. Look in the mirror, and do it over the course of a week even. Just when you think of something, write it down. I'm prideful, write it down. I eat too much, write it down. I'm obsessive, write it down, whatever. And at the end of that, take your time, read over that list. And then either sit down and figure out what you need to do to change that, or maybe go to a therapist, because that's a third party. But find out what your weaknesses are, and find out how to fix those, and you'll ultimately be much more fulfilled, much happier, and you're going to see a difference with your family life, your personal life, with your friends, and you're going to be much happier overall. So thank you so much for coming on. This is incredible. Nasy Girls podcast. Check it out. I've listened to a couple of these episodes, and they're very much like this, very informative. So check them out. You guys are everywhere, right? Spotify,
everywhere
iTunes.
that your phone wants to take you to listen to a podcast, that's where we are.
It's one step ahead of me. So folks, go check that out right now. Lydia, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, stay happy, stay humble, stay joyful.
See ya.